Welcome to a turbulent journey through Turkey's complex diplomatic landscape that has characterized its recent years. From pivotal rejections and controversial military interventions to sanctions and strained alliances, this video unveils the riveting saga of Turkey's foreign policy. Explore the defining moments that reshaped U.S. Turkish relations, the intricacies of Turkey's involvement in Syria, the gripping standoff over the S-400 missile purchase, and the high-stakes maritime disputes in the eastern Mediterranean. Join us as we unravel the power plays, clashes, and global repercussions that have defined Turkey's role on the world stage. Follow closely until the end to find out the top 5 Turkish decisions that shaped its modern history the last years. Transformation of Turkish foreign policy began on March 1, 2003, when the Turkish parliament rejected a resolution that would have permitted the deployment of U.S. forces in Turkey for a northern front in the Iraq War. The rejection was rooted in various factors within Turkey, including internal political strains within the ruling Justice and Development Party, AKP, concerns about regional stability, fears of Kurdish separatism, and the lack of active support for the resolution from the powerful Turkish military. The Bush administration engaged in intensive diplomatic negotiations, offering financial aid, trade benefits, and agreements regarding troop coordination in northern Iraq. Despite these efforts, the agreements were never finalized. Eventually, Turkey only granted the U.S. access to its airspace and provided non-lethal supplies for the U.S. troops in northern Iraq after the war had already started. The failure to authorize the troop deployment had several implications. It strained U.S.-Turkish relations, affected Turkey's influence over post-war Iraq, led to the loss of a substantial aid package tied to the deployment, and highlighted internal political challenges within Turkey's governance. The saga of Turkey's occupation of northern Syria has been a complex evolution, tracing back to its initial diplomatic engagement in the Syrian civil conflict before escalating into prolonged military involvement. From the eruption of civil unrest in Syria in 2011, Turkey swiftly condemned the Syrian government. What began as diplomatic censure gradually transitioned into military support for the Free Syrian Army by July 2011. As tensions escalated, Turkey engaged in border clashes in 2012, marking a pivotal shift in its involvement. Subsequently, direct military interventions unfolded in a series of escalations spanning from 2016 to 2022, ultimately culminating in the occupation of northern Syria since August 2016. The justification of the invasion from the side of Turkey was to drive YPG fighters at least 30 kilometers from its border and establish a safe zone in captured Syrian territory for potential refugee return. Throughout its intricate timeline, the global response to Turkey's actions has been divergent, reflecting the multifaceted nature of international relations. While nations like Qatar, Azerbaijan, and Albania stood by Turkey, praising its measure against perceived threats from Kurdish factions, others like Germany, France, Italy, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, Finland, and Sweden have officially halted their arms trade with Ankara. They've also reached an agreement to compile a roster of potential sanctions targeting Turkish individuals and legal entities. Trump's stance seemed contradictory. He initially seemed to support Turkey's actions, later threatened to destroy the country's economy if restraint wasn't shown. Subsequently, he adopted a let-them-fight approach in northeastern Syria, eventually imposing sanctions against Ankara. The United States, once a steadfast ally, became troubled by Ankara's move against Kurdish populations. U.S. announced measures encompass a twofold increase in steel tariffs, cessation of discussion regarding a proposed trade agreement with Turkey, and the imposition of sanctions on Turkey's defense and energy ministers, along with the respective ministries. If this was not enough, Francis Richardson, the U.S. ambassador to Turkey, serving between 2011 and 2014, conveyed during an interview in 2014 that Turkey has directly supported al-Qaeda in Syria. Turkish authorities supported and helped extremist Islamist groups like Al-Nusra Front and Aurora al-Sham. Additionally, he mentioned his efforts to convince the government to shut its borders to extremists, yet these attempts proved unsuccessful. He said Turkey allowed its borders to be used as a conduit for aid, weapons, and volunteers, and did nothing to distinguish between moderate groups and extremists. Before proceeding to the next chapter, consider liking the video and subscribing. Amid mounting tensions between the United States and Turkey, the Trump administration imposed sanctions on Turkey on December 14, 2020 for its acquisition of a Russian S-400 missile system. The deal inked in 2017 between Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Russian President Vladimir Putin was reportedly valued at $2.5 billion. The S-400, a mobile surface-to-air missile system, is regarded as a threat to NATO and America's F-35 fighter jets. Despite stern warnings from the U.S. and NATO allies, Turkey received the first of 4 missile batteries in July 2019, prompting the U.S. to remove Turkey from the F-35 program. In 2020, Turkey had received 4 batteries comprising 36 fire units and a stockpile of 192 or more missiles. The sanctions under the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act banned all U.S. export licenses to Turkey's President of Defense Industries and imposed an asset freeze and visa restrictions on the organization's president and other top officials. Analysts like Thomas Koreko from the Center of Strategic and International Studies emphasize the overdue nature of these sanctions, cautioning that their effectiveness would hinge on their substantive nature. This development follows previous efforts by the U.S. to dissuade Turkey from procuring the S-400, offering alternatives like Raytheon's Patriot missile system in 2013 and 2017. However, Turkey declined these offers, citing the lack of transfer of sensitive missile technology and interoperability issues within NATO. Christopher Ford, Assistant Secretary for International Security and Non-Proliferation, underscored the repeated diplomatic attempts to resolve the issue without sanctions, lamenting Turkey's refusal of offered military equipment and emphasizing that the U.S. was left with no choice. Turkey, a NATO member since 1952, boasts the alliance's second-largest army. Throughout history, Turkey has actively participated in global conflicts and NATO missions, showcasing its commitment to military support during the Korean War. Though not yet a NATO member, Turkey deployed 4,500 soldiers, garnering praise and recognition from its American allies, receiving the Distinguished Unit Citation. Subsequently, from 2001 to 2021, Turkey contributed troops to NATO's missions in Afghanistan, notably serving in the International Security Assistance Force until 2014, and later joining the Resolute Support Mission from 2020 to 2021. Additionally, Turkey's Navy played an active role in NATO's Operation Active Endeavor in the Mediterranean Sea, a response to the 9/11 attacks aimed at monitoring maritime traffic. However, Turkey's current stance portrays a disruptive role within NATO. President Erdogan's threat to block NATO accession for Finland and Sweden, demanding, among other things, their cooperation in deporting PKK suspects and Golanists, reflects an assertion of its influence. There's a perception in Ankara that Turkey possesses the strength to forge new alliances and act autonomously, attempting a comprehensive foreign policy approach. Despite this, Western leaders are uneasy about Turkey's neutral stance in the Ukraine conflict and its unchanged perspective on Russia. While Europe perceives Russia's invasion in Ukraine as a threat, Turkey's view remains contrary, asserting that its NATO membership doesn't hinder fostering a positive relationship with Russia, a stance opposed by most NATO members, except possibly Viktor Orban of Hungary. If this was not enough, Turkey is also working towards securing an agreement with the U.S. for the procurement of F-16 fighter jets, contingent upon their support for Sweden's entry into NATO. The U.S. is reluctant towards this Turkish negotiation, aiming to separate the two matters and avoid linking the issues together, showing their discomfort. Moreover, Turkey's confrontational rhetoric involving the possibility of attacking a fellow NATO member, Greece, has added a worrying dimension to the dispute. On September 2022, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan reiterated his threat to come suddenly one night to the Greek islands. where in December of the same year, Erdogan veiled threats, including the hinted capability of ballistic missile strikes on Athens, have escalated the conflict beyond a mere maritime rights dispute. Such explicit statements have not only heightened tensions between the two nations, but also posed a challenge to NATO's cohesion and unity, as the alliance faces internal strains amid these aggressive and provocative stances from Turkey. The East Med pipeline, designed to transport natural gas from Levantine Basin offshore fields to Greece and Europe, finds itself in Turkey's crosshairs amidst its quest for regional dominance. Turkey asserts that the pipeline violates its maritime rights by encroaching on its continental shelf and exclusive economic zone. The constant presence of Turkish warships in these disputed waters exacerbates the already tense geopolitical climate surrounding the pipeline project. However, Turkey's actions extend beyond mere posturing. They dispatch vessels for seismic surveys and drilling activities in areas where Greece and Cyprus also claim jurisdiction, leading to diplomatic protests and naval standoffs. These aggressive moves not only obstruct progress on the East Med pipeline, but also strain Turkey's relations with its European neighbors. European Union foreign ministers endorsed a framework in November of 2019 aimed at sanctioning individuals and entities implicated in unapproved oil drilling activities within Cypriot waters. Adding complexity to the pipeline's trajectory is the continuous maritime agreement between Turkey and Libya, inked in 2019. This bilateral agreement establishes an exclusive economic zone stretching from Turkey's southern Mediterranean coast to Libya's northeast coast, intersecting with a later bilateral maritime agreement between Greece and Egypt and creating a deadlock of conflict. Greece's steadfast dedication to UNCLOS prompted consistent appeals to refer the maritime conflicts to the International Court of Justice, ICJ, the UN's primary legal body. The ICJ, tasked with resolving global legal disputes based on international law, presented a viable route toward a peaceful resolution, yet Turkey remained unwilling to subject its claims to examination by impartial international tribunal, persistently declining Greece's invitations. The relationship between Turkey and the West remains strained, marred by unresolved tensions and persistent challenges. Efforts to establish deeper ties have been thwarted by stalled accession talks and faltering negotiations, particularly concerning the customs union upgrade. Turkey's democratic backslide and the deadlock over Cyprus have only exacerbated the impasse, leaving the future of the relationship uncertain. Adding to the complexities, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's recent decision to convert Hagia Sophia from a museum into a mosque unfolded abruptly, lacking any prior consultation. This unexpected move stirred global reactions, raising concerns about Turkey's direction and signaling a departure from established norms. Such actions, taken unilaterally, further strain Turkey's relations with the West, emphasizing the need for recalibration and diplomatic realignment. In the face of these challenges, there's a growing imperative to reassess and redefine the diplomatic landscape. Finding common ground and revisiting strategic priorities could offer a path toward a more stable and constructive relationship between Turkey and Western nations. Despite the existing strains and uncertainties, a concerted effort to rebuild trust and bridge differences is vital to fostering a more amicable and cooperative alliance in the future. And if you found value in this video, sharing it with your friends and giving it a thumbs up would mean a lot to us. Don't forget to subscribe.